Hello, my name is Mackenzie Kozlowski, and today I'm going to be talking about the Natural Bridge Caverns in San Antonio, Texas. The cave got its name, Natural Bridge, because thousands of years ago, the walls of the first room collapsed, leaving just a thin bridge connecting the two parts of land. Originally, this land was ranch land for Charles Weist and his wife, until eventually they discovered that there was a cave on their property. They originally believed this cave to only be a mile deep, so they didn't put any time in exploring it as they were busy ranchers. But eventually, in 1960, they invited 4 students from the St. Mary's University in San Antonio to explore the cave. These students found some crawl spaces that led to deeper rooms. They decided to blow it up with TNT to make it more accessible and to reach the other rooms. According to the Natural Bridge Caverns website, geologists theorize that during the Cretaceous period, a warm, shallow sea covered much of Texas. Sediments and dead marine organisms collected on the ocean floor, compacted, and formed the different limestone layers. Around 20 million years ago, Texas experienced a lot of tectonic activity. This increased seismic activity created the Balcones Fault Zone. It also created joints which allowed water to pass through the cave. Eventually, water and wind made its way into the cave and started carving out the caverns. I've cut away from the video of me cave crawling to show you some of the formations that form due to the water coming through the cave. It can take water several years to make it through the ground and reach the cave. At this point, the water has picked up a lot of minerals, including calcite. Whenever the water reaches and drops, it leaves a little ring of calcite that becomes these formations, known as stalactites if they're stuck to the ceiling, and stalagmites if they reach from the ground. On the right-hand side here, you can see a column, which is when a stalactite and a stalagmite meet in the middle, creating a giant ring of calcite. Most of the formations that you see here started off as soda straw formations, which are very thin, and they only grow 1 inch per 100 years on average. This tour did not pass by the watchtower, but this cave does have a column that is 50 feet tall. If we do the math, we see that 50 feet is equivalent to 600 inches, and at the rate of 1 inch for every 100 years, this means that the column has been growing for 60,000 years. We also know that it's been growing for much longer than that due to how thick it is. If you look closely on the top left side, you'll see something called cave bacon, or also just known as draperies. These draperies are formed when water falls down a sloped ceiling, leaving a line of calcite behind it. Right here, we come up on something called a rim pool. Basically, whenever there's a surplus of water, it will gather in these little pools, depositing calcite on the edges. The calcite properly crystallizes whenever it meets the air, water, and rock, creating that little dam you see between the pools. Back to the cave. So, if you're ever in a cave, do not touch any formations, because the oil from your finger will stop the water from building on the stalagmites and stalactites. Here, I am wearing gloves, and also advised to grab onto them since I am doing a wild tour, but in most situations you will never want to touch a cave formation, so be very careful about that. If you think I'm crazy for crawling in this cave, then you do not want to see what it looked like in 1998. In these modern days, to get to this point in the cave, you would have to take multiple flights of stairs to get here. Back in the day, they would just lower you 60 feet down a well shaft. This cave is just the gift that keeps on giving, because in March of 2022, they found an extra room, and they found bones and wildcat tracks that were not accessible to the public. These wildcat skeletons were recovered and sent to the lab for ancient DNA analysis, where they found out that these bones were roughly 2,000 years old. Overall, this cave is beautiful due to Texas's plate tectonics and earthquakes that gave the cave water, the sedimentary rocks that built the walls of the cave, the weathering that carved out the rooms of the cave, and the minerals and crystals produced inside of the cave. Did you know that Texas has over 5,000 caves? This is because Texas rock is mostly made of sediments, which can be dissolved by carbonic acid made in the air. If you live in Texas and you haven't visited a cave yet, I highly suggest you look into it on your next free weekend. I'm not saying you have to cave crawl like we did, but it does make it more fun. Caves are so interesting because they're one of the only places where you can naturally experience total darkness, minus the bottom of the ocean. Not only are caves amazing because of their geology and history, but also because of their unique organisms. This cave in particular had an abundance of silverfish and crickets that don't have eyes. Overall, I'm very lucky to live in a place that has an abundance of caves, and I hope that this has inspired you to go out and take a look at one that might be near you.